Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm actually going to talk about the story as to how I moved to Bali and why am I here and what happened, because I get an email I think almost every single day of someone asking me, why did I move to Bali, or wasn't I supposed to be living in Thailand, why am I here, all of that. So I thought I'd share the story with you because it's a beautiful story, and plus, who knows, maybe I can inspire or encourage someone out there to follow their dreams. So pretty much my entire life, I've done a lot of traveling. I was really fortunate that my parents loved to travel. So as a young child and a teenager, every few years they would take me and my brother all over the place, and so we've been to everywhere from India to Brazil and everywhere in between, all over the world. And so I had the traveler's bug in me, planted very early, and when I was 16 years old, which was about 20 years ago, I went to Thailand for the very first time, and I fell in love with Thailand. And from the moment I arrived there, I always had a dream to actually live there. And this is something that really, it touched me so deeply that from then on, especially when I was in my 20s and starting a career, I always made sure that I had some sort of career that I can move and live anywhere, that I was never sort of tied down to a specific place or tied down to a job, that I was self-employed and that I can do whatever I'm doing anywhere in the world. So in my 20s, for 10 years, I worked as an artist, as a fine artist. I made sculpture for a living, and the materials I used were so lightweight and so minuscule that I can literally travel anywhere and continue making artwork and continue making a living back in Canada and the United States. So I always sort of organize things in order to support the lifestyle I want to live. And then into my 30s, I changed my career and I went into health coaching and doing the video blog, and with that as well, as long as I have an internet connection, I can continue making videos and doing my thing. So I've always sort of designed and created my lifestyle around being able to be movable, being able to live and do what I want to do and still make a living and still have a strong foundation wherever I am. So I did a lot of traveling when I was in my 20s and 30s. Sometimes I'd go away for a few weeks, sometimes it'd be a few months, and even sometimes a few years. But into my 30s, I would find myself coming back, always returning to Canada and being even more and more depressed every time I would return from a trip. And I'd say about 2 years ago, I was kind of at a low point, and I just felt frustrated being in Canada and just constantly returning. And my mother was on the phone with me one day, and she had said, well, you know, if there's anywhere in the world, where would it be that you'd want to live? And I said, I'd want to live in Thailand. And then she said, well, what is it then that's holding you back? And after I got off the phone with her, it was the first time I was really quite honest with myself about, you know, what is it that's holding me back? Because I've been all over the place, but I keep coming back and I've never actually done a permanent move. And so I was really quite honest with myself that I realized that I have a tendency to be quite the planner. I like to be organized, I like to plan things out, and as crazy as some of the things I do, there's always a lot of sort of rational thinking behind it. And my plan had always been that I would meet the man of my dreams and we would move to Asia together. And I realized at that moment, I was like, you know, I'm in my mid-30s. I've traveled the world on my own as a female, and why is it should be any different moving somewhere? Why can't I just go and move somewhere and perhaps meet someone where I moved to? Be much easier, don't you think? So it's a simple thing, but a lot of times we in our mind we have sort of a plan, and we feel that certain things need to be done, certain things need to be organized, or certain things need to happen before we can pursue our dreams and our goals. And for me, that was the big thing, that I felt I needed to have a partner before I can go and do something. And it was in that moment that I realized, I think I have things a little bit backwards. Sometimes it's a matter of pursuing what you want and letting things happen from there. So pretty much, I guess a few months after that, I decided to go to Thailand, and I decided to just go for 6 weeks, check it out. Been 20 years that I've been there, make sure I want to actually move there, and also just make sure I can still do the videos and still function and, and have everything. So I went for 6 weeks, loved it, and was like, yes, I'm gonna move there. And pretty much what ended up happening is I came back to Canada, packed my bags, and gave away everything I owned, and off I went to Asia. And on my way to Thailand, I stopped in Hong Kong for a few days. I have a cousin that lives there, so I went to spend time with her. And pretty much the night before I was supposed to go to Thailand, there was major flooding, and all airports were closed in Thailand and no way of actually going there. So last minute I had to decide, okay, where am I gonna go? My cousin the next day was going to Singapore, her husband was going to Sri Lanka. I had to decide quickly, where do I go? And at first I was like, oh, no problem, I'll just go to Vietnam or go to Laos. But it turned out all the surrounding countries were flooded as well, all airports closed. So I was in this position of having to make adjustments. And, so at first I was thinking, I'll go to New Zealand, but then it's like, ooh, I don't really have the budget for that right now. And then I thought maybe Fiji, and then I thought Bali. And the whole story with Bali, though, is that I was here a few years ago, I'd say about maybe 5 years ago, and I was here for a few months. At the time, I had been living in Australia for about 2 years, and I had a boyfriend at the time that was Australian, and his family lived in an island off of Bali. And so we decided to go there for a few months before I'd return to Canada. And so I loved Bali, everything, and I returned to Canada. The relationship ended on good terms, but I never wanted to return to Bali because of that. And partially because he lives here, and also just, a lot of times you don't want to go back to old ghosts. We were on good terms, everything, but it's, you just want to move on. You want to move forward. You don't want to go backwards. And so, but when I was in Hong Kong, I was like, what, I might as well just go to Bali. I've got, I know the place, I'm familiar with the area, and I'll just go and spend a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then I'll go to Thailand once flooding and all that's over with. So I went to Bali, and I think it was like the next day, the day after I arrived, I met a young guy from Sumatra that offered to help me out with anything I needed. And next thing you know, in less than a week, he had helped me find a room to rent, helped me with my immigration papers, all sorts of stuff. Whatever I needed, this guy was like an angel that would just make it happen. And so next thing you know, I realized within my first week, I wasn't going anywhere. I was staying in Bali, and I loved it. It was like every single day was just magic and good to me, and life just sort of flowed. It's like anything I needed, whatever. It was never an obstacle. And I'd have to say within pretty much, I'd say the first 9 months that I was here, I've been here for about 1.5 years now, but the first 9 months I was here, I was still doing a lot of traveling. So Bali was kind of like a base for me, but I was going to Thailand quite a bit, and I was also just other parts of Asia. And I found myself not staying in one place for more than 30 days or 60 days. I was constantly on the go. That after about 9 months of just being all over the place, I came back and decided it was time to rent a home, not a room, sign a long-term lease, and really just put both feet down and start making a life for myself here and really integrating myself into daily life here. And so that's what I did. I found a great home, and I enrolled in Indonesian language school, and I was introduced to an amazing man who's from here, and we've been in a beautiful relationship. Everything's strong and great, happy and wonderful, and I've been making a life here. And so that's pretty much my story as to what happened, how I got here. The universe intervened on my way to Thailand, big flooding, and I ended up here, and my life has been really, really good. So I guess the gist of the story is that sometimes we think we're meant to be doing one thing, and it might not go that way, but in fact there might be something even better, even better. So do be flexible, because you just never ever know what's going to happen. And I just find a lot of times when we're meant to be doing something, the universe will make sure we do it. So with that, go for your dreams. Go for them. Anything's possible. So I'm wishing you guys a fabulous day, and I will see you next week.